Hello, my name is Megan Varner, and I am a health and energy coach for individuals with POTS and chronic fatigue, helping them rebuild their energy to learn how to thrive again in their lives with these conditions. Your life is definitely not over with these, and you can figure out how to enjoy your life and get back to living again. So this video, I'm going to be specifically talking about how to talk to others about living with POTS and or chronic fatigue. This topic is very close to my heart as I've been living with these conditions along with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome for, knowing a little over a decade, but most of my life. And they definitely affect your day-to-day function and your relationships with others. And it can definitely be challenging and frustrating to communicate what's going on with you to just about anybody that you're dealing with in your life if they don't really fully understand with what's going on with you. But it's important to know how to communicate in order to maintain healthy relationships and reduce the stress in your life and advocate for what you need so that you can thrive again. So I'm going to share 5 tips that I have found helpful and my clients have also found helpful in navigating talking to others about POTS and fatigue. The first, and I'd almost say the most important one, is to communicate clearly and effectively and continually educate while doing so. Oftentimes we sugarcoat how we're feeling, in part because we're used to people not understanding when we start talking about the level of challenge that we face on a day-to-day basis. But I often remind clients that if you continue to sugarcoat things, people really aren't going to understand what you are going through. So establishing an open and honest communication with someone when they do ask you how you're feeling can do a world of good. And it's up to you how much you share. But I'll give an example. So if someone asks you, how are you doing today? And you say, I'm not having a very good day. They may respond, oh, I'm sorry, and move on and not fully understand what that I'm not having a good day means. So something you could say, if you're comfortable with, is, I'm not feeling very well today. I'm more dizzy and lightheaded. My heart rate is higher, and so I'm more tired. And when I stand up, I'm worried that I'm going to pass out. This makes me anxious to get in the car and drive anywhere to meet you because it might cause me to get into an accident. So I would feel more comfortable if you would come over to my house or meet me somewhere that I can be dropped off at. That is quite a bit of detail and you can reduce it down to your liking, but that shows a lot more insight into what's going on with you than just saying, I don't feel good, and expecting the other person to interpret what's going on. The other piece of this communicating clearly and effectively is educating someone. Oftentimes, a lack of understanding is due to a lack of knowledge about your diagnosis and your specific health conditions. So providing them with some more knowledge about what exactly POTS is, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, in a simple explanation, like I have difficulty regulating my heart rate and even regulating my body temperature and how tired I can get when I change positions, and especially when I'm doing prolonged standing or if I'm sitting silently for a long period of time, my blood can pool and make my symptoms worse. You can get into as much detail as you'd like and go to the extent that your mental capacity can do in that moment. I'm a fan of sharing websites like Dysautonomia International or Standing Up to POTS with clients and or family members and doctors that I've encountered with. Dysautonomia International in particular has some great research and also has some good YouTube videos out there, or looking into finding some books like the Dysautonomia Project or other books on POTS and fatigue to give to those that are open and receptive to it to learn more about your condition so that that dialogue isn't as confusing when you're telling them that you're having a bad day. The second big tip is to make sure that you are showing the others that you're talking to empathy. Oftentimes we want empathy when we are living with a chronic condition on a day-to-day basis like POTS, and forget that we need to also show empathy to others when they don't fully understand what's going on with you, especially when it's a condition that they might not be as familiar with. Acknowledge that it might be hard for them to understand what's going on in your body. And this is where some descriptive phrases or words can be very helpful. Like, I feel so heavy when I stand up. It's difficult to go up and down the steps because I can't catch my breath. Versus just saying, I can't do anything around the house today. I don't feel good. It's harder for the person to understand what exactly you could be able to do or how much you may be able to help verbally to guide them if you do just a blanket statement where I can't do anything. And when you're explaining things to people, a big part of the empathy is also remembering to be patient with them and kind and understand that it may take them some time to get what's going on with you on a day-to-day basis. This doesn't just apply to family members and friends, it also applies to physicians. I have definitely found in my journey that if I tell a physician something once, it may take a couple times repeating that, especially if it's a physician you see on a regular basis, to fully understand what you are referring to. And that's where the educational piece can come in, and tracking your symptoms can also come in. But all in all, it's super important to be patient and kind as you explain it to them. Because I can say that I have definitely done this. When you get frustrated or overwhelmed or even angry with the person that you're trying to explain things to, that is not going to help them understand what is going on with you. It's actually going to build up a wall. So keeping that open communication with patience and empathy is hugely helpful as you're navigating your journey with POTS and fatigue. And if you do get frustrated in trying to communicate with others, remember that there's always the option to reach out and seek support elsewhere. There's some great support groups out there that can help you not only navigate your condition, but can also give you some guidance into how to figure out how to communicate with others, either through their own personal experiences with certain situations and certain wording, and getting how they're feeling across to other family members, friends, coworkers, or even medical professionals. But there's also some guidance quite often in the support groups that they share from either the moderators or from whatever organization that they are associated with. Dysautonomia International does have some support groups and that meet regularly, and they're tagged for different areas around the country that you can attend online, that I myself have found helpful and also clients have found helpful. And if it is super frustrating in figuring out how to get your point across with a either personal acquaintance or someone in your medical team, you can always consider getting professional help. It's okay to ask for help from a therapist or a counselor to help guide you in figuring out how to best communicate and cope with the feelings that you have and navigating the relationships that you have that are affected by POTS. And I do want to bring up, I have as many along our journey, at sometimes you have to be mindful that certain relationships you may have to let go of as you move along your journey of figuring out how to thrive, especially if someone is being dismissive or being very negative about your experience. It's okay to break ties with them or to limit your exposure to them and setting up healthy boundaries. Either explaining what your relationship is going to entail or getting to the point, if it is with a family member that you cannot avoid, setting up how you're going to communicate and at what regular points, and putting up particular guidelines on expectations around the house, expectations on travel, or with certain duties on a daily basis or a weekly basis can do a lot of help to communicating how you can better figure out how to navigate your condition and not be frustrated and drained by having to figure out how to interact with them on a regular basis. And remember, everybody is on their own journey. Everyone has their own exposure to what they have dealt with health-wise in their life. And at times, they may get very frustrated in not knowing how to help you. So continuing to show them patience and love through the process can be very helpful to establish continuous good communication and not hit roadblocks or feel like you're interacting with a brick wall. But you are not the emotional support for them. They can also reach out and get professional help to better support you in your life and to continue to be a support for you and a guiding light versus someone that's dragging you down. And last but definitely not least, it may seem kind of odd to include this, but continuing to practice self-compassion throughout the process of communicating with others is super important, because if you're not kind to yourself, you're not going to be very kind to others that you are interacting with. Realize that you are not going to know exactly how to explain what your condition is like or how you're feeling all of the time. That practice makes perfect, to use that phrase, really is true when it comes to communicating with other friends, or especially with medical professionals, and keeping a particular list of things that have been most helpful to you or from others you've interacted with through those support groups, what have been helpful for them to explain what your day-to-day life is living with POTS. And when you do feel super frustrated, continue to focus on what you do have control over. You have control over what your thoughts are and what your emotions are towards what is going on, and that in and of itself can have a huge influence on what actions we're able to take and the results that we get in the process of learning how to thrive with POTS. I hope that these tips were helpful. Please comment below the video for any tips that you found particularly helpful or any others that you'd like to share, as we're all on this journey together and learning how to thrive with POTS and chronic fatigue. And if you are interested in personalized support and learning how to best advocate for yourself with others, both in your personal life and in the medical community, and communicate what you need on a daily basis, please reach out to me either through booking on my website at guidetoresilience.com, or you're welcome to send me a direct email at megan.varner@guidetoresilience.com.